everyone, and welcome back to Sunday Reads with Renee. My name is Renee, and today I'm doing a double book review on two nonfiction works, American Sherlock and Empire of the Scalpel. And I really wanted to focus more on nonfiction works here for my channel. If you recall from my video earlier this month, where I talked about why I like nonfiction works and how I want to try to implement them a little bit more into my channel for the Sunday Reads with Renee section. And I'm really looking forward to doing this double book review on American Sherlock and Empire of Scalpel, and I hope you will enjoy. Before I begin, I want to let everybody know that everything in this video is just my opinion based off of what I read in these books, and I will be revealing some things about these works, therefore spoilers are ahead. The first one is American Sherlock by Kate Winkler Dawson, and this discusses a lot about Oscar Heinrich and how he improved forensics in the early 20th century and how it gave birth to the American CSI. And what I really liked about this book is that I found it very engrossing from beginning to end. I thought it was very well researched, well written. It had a lot of meticulation in its research that made it engrossing and compelling and interesting. And Dawson herself, if you look at her website, I'll leave a link in the description, is highly skilled in crime fiction writing, especially true crime. And I'm looking forward to bringing more of her works in here because I really like this one and I want to try implementing it a little bit to the channel. Going back to American Sherlock, though, this is one I really liked because I thought, again, it was just a very engrossing read. And the way it starts off is by talking about a real life case in the early 1930s involving a woman named Eileen Lamson, who was found deceased in her bathtub in the early 1930s. And while she could have passed due to an accident, there was speculation that her husband, David Lamson, violently eliminated her. And it became a huge case at that time in the early 1930s. And so it starts off with that and then goes towards the end. But in between the beginning of that case and the end of that case, it goes into more detail about Oscar Heinrich's biography and just his demons, his successes and failures, how he implemented a lot of things in modern forensics at that time and place in the early 1920s, and how it has improved and evolved over time. And what's interesting is that Dawson goes into different types of cases in which he helped to really make forensics a big part of criminal trials as well as the criminal investigations. Everything from fingerprints to handwriting to weapons to body parts and such, and including the Great Train Heist, which he's more remembered for among forensic experts and historians, which took place in the early 1920s. But the ones that were most compelling to me were when she goes into the sections on handwriting and fingerprints and how Oscar Heinrich really implemented forensics in that regard. I thought that was the more detailed, well researched one, and it was just more of a fascination to me, especially fingerprints as it involves a real life case. All of them are, of course, but this one really gravitated to me more because it dealt with Roscoe Arbuckle, who was a famous silent comedian movie star whose career and life was really destroyed by a scandal, which is still up for speculation today. There are some who speculate that it was more medical neglect on his part, but then there are others who believe he did commit a violent crime. I'll leave some links in the description again, just so you can read up on it yourself and come to your own conclusions. But what I really liked about American Sherlock is that while it does talk about the fascination and huge success in this improvement to forensics, is that it also does highlight how, despite these improvements, there was still some speculation even then, because even though it is crucial to criminal justice, you're still doing this in the early 1920s. A lot of things have evolved over 100 years later. So how has that improved? And she does go into more detail about that towards the end of the book. But I genuinely really liked this one. And when it gets to the end, talking about Eileen Lamson, it is left to your own conclusion about what you think. And in that case, I think that Lamson was violently eliminated. That's just my opinion. I don't know if it was her husband or someone else, but in my own opinion, I think she was violently eliminated. At the same time, I can see why some might think it was an accident instead. But I think overall, this book was very fascinating. Get to the pros and cons of forensics at that time and place, how Heinrich really improved it, but also some speculation on what he could change. But then again, you're also looking at it from the 21st century perspective. So we have a more improved look at forensics these days and a lot of changes as well. So basically, Heinrich Moore just was the birth of modern forensics within the American CSI spectrum. And now we've improved it so much that it can be crucial in criminal justice court systems, but sometimes it can't. So there's a lot of discussion you can go with this book as well. But I really enjoyed it because it goes through all these real life cases of which Heinrich was crucial in, but it also leaves the readers up to figure out your own interpretations and speculations and discussions as well, which I always welcome on this channel no matter what. But for me, I just found it a very fascinating book, and I hope you read it. And if you have, please let me know in the comments. Next, we have The Empire of the Scalpel by Ira Rutkow. And this is a book that is very dense yet meticulous in a lot of the evolution of surgery. And I really liked this one because it goes into great detail and meticulous research on how surgery has evolved from the ancient times to the present day. And it starts off in the ancient times as well, where they look at Egypt, Greece, the Roman Empire, and then seeing how it evolves up until the present days and the modern technologies that we're doing. And I really like this one because I'm not really too big on medical books, especially surgical books, but it really gave me more perspective on how things have evolved and the great research as well as success and failures that happened along the way to try and improve surgery and make it better. And what does fall a little bit short in this book is that there isn't a lot of information about surgical evolution before the 19th century. And a lot of that just has to do with the fact that we don't have as much information as we would like on hand, and we have to do more research about it if we can find more. So, what you're going to find in this book is that there is a good amount of it from the ancient times up until early modern Europe with the 18th century, but everything starts to really come into more detailed overview within the 19th century until the present day, where you start to see more meticulous research available, but also where all the evolutions start. Everything from how different types of surgery change, such as different things with how to do your throat and how to do different parts of the body, but also things that happened even before the 19th century where you had to figure out how to do everything with your drawings, where certain organs in the body were, and everything like that, as well as bone settings, where the names of things came from. And you also find a lot of that changing in the 19th century too, where you're starting to use different types of antiseptics and anesthesia coming into play, as well as way into the 20th century. But I think the most interesting thing for me, at least, was when the author talked more about the successful kidney transplant in 1954, which was quite revolutionary at the time. There's a lot of detail into it, and it makes me feel that the author was more interested in that than anything else. And it does get more towards the end, where they talk about modern surgeries and transplants with the face and such, as well as the lack of female surgeons, which have come up completely for many years, especially in the last half of the 20th century, but there's still a lack of female surgeons, and how do we keep making those changes and coming forth. So when it comes to The Empire of the Scalpel, it was a very detailed, meticulous researched book, but very dense, and I felt that was because the author's trying to get so much knowledge and information into it, but I really liked it. It gave a lot of information on just the evolution of surgery, how things evolved and changed, those successes and failures again of what they needed to do, how there was a lot of back and forth about proper procedures, how they change things, can we perform it in the correct way? So it is a very detailed work, and I hope you will pick this up if you're interested in surgery or not. I do think this is a great work. It was a very unique one, in my opinion, to see it really written out that way. And Ira Rutkow is actually a former surgeon himself, as well as an author, so I can see a lot of detail in it, and he even puts a little more of his personal stamp in the prelude, where he talks about his successes and failures as a surgeon, particularly in 1975, where he had a case and it was very stressful and uncertain. So he has a little of his own little perspective in there as well, which I like and can get you to think as well. And I like that when some authors do put their own perspectives on it. We can agree to disagree and have very varied discussion here, which I always welcome here in the comments for everybody. And this concludes my double book review of American Sherlock and the Empire of the Scalpel. And for me, myself, I picked American Sherlock over Empire of Scalpel because I just found American Sherlock to be more interesting as I get a little bit more curious about crime and my own personal interests. Nonetheless, I recommend both these books for reading. And now I'd like to hear from you. Have you read either of these books? And if you have, tell me what you thought of them. Did you like or dislike them? Was there anything about them that you liked over more compared to different topics? Anything you'd like to say, please be sure to put them in the comments. I welcome all discussions as always, and I hope you'll enjoy these works if you haven't read them yet. I thank you again so much for tuning in. I'll be back Wednesday with another video and next Sunday with another Sunday Reads as we prepare for February, which for me is both a combination of romance and Black history. So I'm looking forward to putting out different layers of content for you on the month of February with Sundays. I thank you again so much for tuning in, and please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell. I'll see you next time. Bye.